ahead and get started in just about a minute. We'd like to remind the candidates when you do get up on the stage to make sure that your mics are on. Thank you very much. My name is Christian Coulon. I'm the editor of the Independent Appeal. I'd like to welcome all of you to the McNairy County mayoral debate. I'd like to thank the folks from the MRA for setting this up tonight. They've done a wonderful job. I'd also like to thank both candidates, Ronnie Brooks and Tom Colley, for showing up tonight and participating in this debate. Thank you very much. Tonight's debate is going to be moderated by Jeff Whitten. Jeff is the head news writer at the Independent Appeal. He's also a McNairy County native and Adamsville High School graduate. Jeff has a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Tennessee, Martin. He also holds a master's and PhD in political science from the University of Southern California. Jeff has been with the Independent Appeal for the last 3 years. He covers our government and politics beat, and he is probably the most objective journalist I've ever worked with, so I think he's a perfect choice for the moderator tonight. Tonight's debate is going to be broken up into 3 sections. The first section of the debate will be questions from the moderator to each of the candidates. The candidates will have approximately 3 to 5 minutes to answer the questions. I don't think Jeff's going to hold them to it that closely, but the second portion of the debate, the candidates will then have a choice or an opportunity to ask one another questions. And then the final portion, we're going to open it up to the audience. We're going to allow questions from the audience to the candidates themselves. We're going to go ahead and get the debate kicked off right now. We're going to start with each of the candidates giving an introduction, and then they're going to go ahead and just go right into the debate. We did a coin toss earlier, and
Ronnie Brooks won the toss, and he has chosen to close on the closing, or go last on the closing statement. Tom, you want to go first on the opening statement?
thank you.
Test, test. Can everybody hear me okay back there? Am I too loud, too low? How about in the back row? Dennis? Good, thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good evening. I want to thank the Independent Appeal for hosting this mayoral debate. Also want to thank the McNairy Regional Alliance for allowing us to use this beautiful facility tonight. And also I want to thank all of you who are here taking an interest in this important race. My name is Tom Colley. I'm seeking the office of McNairy County Mayor in an attempt to bring some economic vitality to this county. I want to start, first of all, by telling you some of the duties of the county mayor. You know, the county mayor is a leader in county government. He's the catalyst. He's the person that leads the county around. Financial management is the main thrust. He compiles budgets, with the exception of the Department of Education, the Road Department, and the Sheriff's Office. He can oversee other county accounts. He oversees county payroll. He acts as the human resource manager for the county, works closely with the county attorney on all legal issues, oversees county functions, sits on a number of boards, including the industrial boards, Southwest Tennessee Developmental Board, Human Resource Board, the Rail Authority, sits on the River Authority boards. The county mayor cannot create jobs, but he can create an environment which is conducive to job creation and economic vitality in this county. You know, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. First of all, tonight, I'm not from McNairy County. I was born in North Carolina, raised in Virginia, but I've been here about 20 years. I married Brenda Jones, Raymer native. We lived down in the Raymer area, about a mile from where she was raised. I spent a career in the United States Air Force. I spent 4 tours of duty in Japan, 2 in Southeast Asia, and 3 tours in the United States. While I was in Vietnam, I was injured. Thank God, the only lasting effect is a small tick. It hasn't affected me. It's been 34 years and I've operated just fine with it. But the Air Force did afford me the opportunity for an excellent education. I earned a bachelor's degree in commerce with a minor in international business. Then after Vietnam and then a tour in Northeast Thailand with Air America, I came back to Japan, went back to Japan, earned my master's and PhD in East Asian Studies with a concentration on Japan. I'm considered fluent in Japanese. After the Air Force career, I wound up in law enforcement in Orlando, Florida with the Orange County Sheriff's Office and taught as an adjunct at the University of Central Florida, taught Asian Studies. But since, during that time, I earned an associate's degree in criminal justice with a concentration on corrections. Back to Japan again, back to school again, I was fortunate to earn my master's and PhD during that time. During this past 5 years, I've been able to earn a bachelor's in economic development from Oklahoma University. And I'm currently enrolled in a master's program at the University of Central Arkansas in community development. I was the executive director of the Wayne County Economic and Community Development Office for 5 years while I still lived here in McNairy County. Wayne County is an economically depressed county, and if you've ever been over there, I didn't have anything to work with when I got to that county. They had no rail, had no 4-lane roads at that time. I had no buildings with tall ceilings, available buildings. We had an airport that had grass growing on the runway. And on top of that, about the time I got there, July 1st, 07, was the beginning of the economic turndown. So I had some real challenges. But even so, I didn't lose a single industry in Wayne County. You know, I recruited one industry, and when I left there, I have 3 on the drawing board. I was able to bring that county from one of the top, or we better say low, but top unemployment counties in Tennessee to about midway in the 95 Tennessee counties. You know, I paid very close attention to retention and expansion of existing buildings and industry, and business and industry. I worked with there, and 5 of those had an increase in employment. And when I left, like I said, I had 3 on the drawing board. I was able to have one of my industries in Collinwood sent to Japan on a trade mission, and it turned out to be the only Tennessee industry that was allowed to go. So that was pretty significant for me. You know, I know you're not interested in Wayne County, but I said that for a reason. And that reason was that if I could have done that in a depressed Tennessee county with nothing to work for at the onset of the economic turndown, then we here in McNairy County, with all the amenities that we have and all the pluses that we have, I think that the sky's going to be the limit. Thank you.
We'll now have a 5-minute opening statement by Ronnie Brooks. check. Check on.
This belt. I can't see.
Oh, it's, yeah.
Okay, check, 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 check.
This is what I'm used to anyway. This works better. I do, as I want to echo what Tom said, I do appreciate the independent appeal for this opportunity to be able to share with you a little bit about ourselves and what we stand for. And I'm a lifelong resident of McNairy County. I've lived here all my life, and I've always loved the people of McNairy County, and I've loved the towns. And my parents, Bobby and Billy Brooks, were business people in McNairy County for over 40 years, and it contributed a great deal to the community and our county. And I have a degree in education. I taught band for approximately 25 years. Worked on my master's in supervision administration at Freed-Hardeman University, and I'm currently the clerk of Circuit Court, General Sessions, and Juvenile here at McNairy County, and I've been in this position for approximately 12 years. I was on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce and president for one term. I'm past president of the West Tennessee Clerks Association and a member of the executive board of the Tennessee Court Clerks Association. And I'm also the director of the area-wide community band. My wife Diane is a retired special ed teacher and supervisor of McNairy County Schools. We are both members of the First Baptist Church here in Selmer. We have 2 girls and 5 grandchildren. Both daughters and their husbands are pharmacists. We lost our 3rd daughter in 1997 in an auto accident. The decision to run for county mayor was prayed about, and a great deal of thought went into it. I was very careful about this decision. And I felt that I could only help a certain sector of our citizens through the office that I presently hold. And the potential to help many citizens and bring about a better way of life was a major factor in my decision. And to me, that's part of the desire to be a public servant, is that you're willing to put forth the effort and to do your best to try to serve the people of the town that you live in and show them that you care and give back to them. To me, there are elements that are involved to be a county mayor. And those elements, to me, number one would be a communicator. To me, that the mayor must provide information to the citizens, listen to their concerns, and work toward solutions. Develop strong relationships with all community mayors and boards and citizens. Again, to me, that communication is the only way that you can get anything accomplished in any county government. If the citizens of the county do not understand how this is going to affect them, then it's just a waste of everyone's time. So I feel like communication is a strong point that has to be part of a mayor. Everybody needs to be informed on all issues and how it's going to affect them. And to me, everybody needs to be also on the same page. And what I mean by on the same page, that is for any way for the development of any kind of industry or growth or jobs or improvements in education or even the services in the county, you've got to get everybody that has to be on the same page. And I feel that we need to strengthen all of our relationships with business owners, industry, to listen to the concerns and the needs of the local business people, because that is the bulk of that's what is our tax dollars are coming from. So we need to have the support for those people that need it. They've chosen to invest in McNairy County, and I think every effort should be made to support them and show how much their commitment is appreciated. And also, I think that the mayor has to be a promoter. And what I mean by that is he has to actually be a cheerleader for the county. I think we need to launch a major campaign to promote our county the best way we can and show them exactly what we offer around here. Capitalize on all the pre-existing programs that we have, developing more informative promotions that involve regional attractions. You know, we sometimes take for granted how much we actually have in our region that people from all over come to see. Pickwick Landing State Park, Shiloh, one of the most pristine national military parks in the country is right here in our back door. So I feel like that is an area that we need to pursue, to do as much promotions as we possibly can to bring more people in. Fiscal responsibility. Making sure that our tax dollars are used wisely and productively. I feel like as an elected official, presently, that I understand our budgeting process and how our county government works. Because I have to maintain a budget, obviously in my office, and I know what it takes to prepare that and stay constant with that budget. I feel like we've got to learn to always stay within our means, and that's part of controlling the budget, and that's what a mayor should do. Checks and balances. I'll be always involved with our regional alliances and our economic development boards in every effort to try to recruit industry. What I mean by that is I just want to be actively involved. I want to inform boards as concerned citizens. Because I know we have people all throughout the county that want to be involved in the future of this county. What kind of county we want to promote. You know, what kind of, we search all possibilities of industry. And that doesn't necessarily restrict us to just industry. I mean, it could be agricultural farming, it could be organic farming, it could be alternative fuels. There's so many possibilities that we do have. We have the access and we have the people who have the capabilities of doing that here in McNairy County. Education. And we all know that the foundation of industrial recruitment is an educated workforce. I feel like dollar for dollar at this point for what we spend on our students in McNairy County, they are getting a tremendous education. However, I know we always know there's always room for improvement. So I will work and support whatever our school board plans to do in the future to provide the tools that these teachers need so they can educate our children. I feel like that we also need to really be concentrated on our GED programs. We know that everyone, it's unfortunate that not through bad choices that kids make as they grow up, that they don't realize that an education is an important part of their future. And sometimes they slip through. And I think the GED program is extremely important and that is part of educating our workforce. I feel like that we do need a little more involvement with UTM and also with our high schools and getting them involved with outreach and recruiting, you know, going into the schools and actively recruit, and also in the GED program, because those students are encouraged and many of them go on to a college education. Fire protection, these are what I'm going in talking about now are basic services that I think that a county has to have in place and has to function properly. Throughout my campaign, I've noticed many people have been concerned about their ISO ratings and throughout the county. Some of them are big, some of them are high, some of them are low. I feel like that we need to work diligently to get those ISOs in line. Law enforcement, I feel like the sheriff and the judicial system needs to continue to get the support that it needs to continue what they're doing. We have drug issues, just like any other county, and we're not the only ones that have to deal with that situation. And we also have a crime situation here, but we have the forces of the sheriff's department. They're out there actively doing their job, and we need to provide them with the tools that they need to continue that. Animal control is another extremely touchy subject with people in McNairy County. I think everyone has been touched with that once, or when somebody dumps a puppy on your back door, you know what I'm talking about. I feel like that we need to address that. I mean, and what I mean is getting all these groups who are actively concerned about the animal problem that we do have and talk to them and see what we can come up with a plan. Obviously, and that does not mean immediately go out and build a facility, obviously, but it does need a dialogue started so we can at least go in that direction as to come up with a remedy for the problem. My concerns are always going to be your concerns, and I'm here and I'm going to make every concentrated effort to the people in my home of McNairy County and do the best that I can for you, and I would appreciate the opportunity to serve you. I'm very proud of my county, and I want to make my county proud of me. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We need to address this thing because it just goes from one to the other. I worked death row. We interviewed a lot of inmates that were there for life. In Colorado, in Florida, life is 20 calendar years. In Colorado, life is 48 continuous years. So the majority of them says, what brought you to prison? What brought you to jail? Most of them say, I don't know, drugs, I guess. I was high.
Area, unfortunately, that happens. I mean, there's a lot of it that you can't control. Obviously, the education is there. You know, the DARE program through the schools, they're trying to educate kids about the disasters that they can get into by getting into drugs. However, we know that sometimes that's not going to take, but we have to continue that effort to educate our children in the schools. I do know that Sheriff Buck's got officers that are very diligent about going into the schools and teaching these classes. He's there. I think we can continue to just step that up as far as our drug education. And of course, that goes with funding usually. You know, it's going to cost some money at some point to do some drug education. But we do have making a large dent in the drug situation in our county, and it is getting better, and it is for the directed efforts of Sheriff Buck and our local municipal departments that are making this effort to get that done. But yeah, that's just a continued education, Ray, is the only thing. And when they get into the court system, you know, they are through the probation office, they have the opportunities to, well, not the opportunities, most of the time it's forced upon them, in some cases to get help. And so the system does work. It just won't take a while.
When I follow up a little bit, I'm going to support what you said. I have the opportunity I have been working with the prospect for a faith-based prison. They haven't decided where they want to go yet. Maybe McNairy County, who knows? It depends. But this prison, let me tell you, the recidivism rate in America is 70%. And their children are 70% apt to go to prison as well. It's just a revolving door. This faith-based prison will only hire Christians for corrections officers. They take the inmate that is within 30 to 24 months of completing their sentence. Their jacket has to fit. They have to volunteer for this program. There are no trustees. They're restricted to this place. And if they're drug abusers, then they work with them on that issue. If they're burglars, they work with them on that issue. They also go out and they work with the families of these people because they're going to be out. They're going to be out within 24, 30 months, back out in the population. So what they're doing is they'll go out because this family has been codependent on this inmate for 20 years, theoretically. So they're going to reprogram that family and get them in line so that when the inmate comes out, then he's got family, he's got support. Because most of them, listen, you know, I've worked in that business a long time, and most of them, burglars get better in jail. Hey, car thieves get better in jail. They have classes. Let me tell you a better way to steal a car. Let me tell you a better way to burgle a house. So with this faith-based prison, the recidivism rate is down to 30%. There's industry in the back of this prison, and you cannot recruit any industry within a 30-mile radius of where the facility is. So you don't compete with your local industry or local business. In the back of this building is industry. They have to work. They have to pay them at least minimum wage. Everybody works. If there's victims, some of that money has to go to victim advocate. If they're dependent children, some of that money has to go to child support. And You know, if mom and daddy has bailed you out for 20 years, then you get to pay some of them back. But then you've got to save some. So when he gets out of prison, he's got a little bit of a nest egg. He's got the rehabilitation done, and he's less apt to go back to prison because of the type of facility it is. They just built the first one in Waukita, Oklahoma, out in the middle of nowhere. But they built a quad. They built 4 of these things on a group. And one of those things only holds 1,500 inmates. And they'll have 800 corrections officers. It's almost 2-1. 2-1. So, you know, this is going to be a great project. I'm hoping maybe we bring that here. I've got all the plans and all the contact, and they're still working on it. It's going to take a little bit of legislation, of course, but I think we can get around that hurdle.
Had the advantage of good education, you know, just looking at your qualifications. And I hate to get you off of prisons and back on to education, but let me ask you one more question about education. With our state government not only just indifferent to education, but openly hostile to education and educators, what could either of you gentlemen do to reverse the trend of our state representatives and state senators who forgot they went to school for some reason or other? And what can you do about this situation? Thank you.
Put the right people in the right places, Albert. I'm talking about legislators. So, you know, legislators have to have, that's the ones who make the laws. You know, we can promote it as much as we want to in our own communities, but ultimately it's up to the voters to realize that that is an issue and be concerned enough that they do make an effort to make those changes that are needed.
Okay, now we're going to move to the final phase of the debate. We're going to allow 5-minute closing statements, and Tom will start.
I'll start. Hey, listen, the great Alabama football coach, Bear Bryant, said one time, have a plan, stick to the plan, and you're going to be surprised at how much you can get accomplished. You know, most people don't have a plan. That's the reason they're so easy to beat. You know, I've created a 12-point plan of action that I propose my first 100 days in office. I also have a 10-point jobs plan that was published in the Independent Appeal this week, I guess yesterday. You know, I've had the unique opportunity to view McNairy County from a number of perspectives. I worked at GE Selmer for 10 years. I got vested at 60 and retired. But I understand the challenges that face local industry, workforce development, and retaining a skilled workforce. I was executive director of the McNairy County Chamber of Commerce, so I understand community development. And I understand the challenges that face this county. I owned and operated Raymer Station Restaurant. So I understand small business development, and I understand the entrepreneurial spirit. For the past 5 years, I've traveled each day to Wayne County as the Executive Director of Economic Community Development. So I understand how to recruit new jobs. I understand that it centers on retention and expansion of business and industry. Now, our next county mayor is going to have some real tough issues and needs to be able to hit the ground running. You know, I don't have a personal agenda. I'm too old. But just to do what I can to help grow this county, to establish some economic vitality. I've got all the skill sets and I've got the contacts that I've gained over the last 8 years that can give this county the boost that it needs. Now, I told you earlier, I've worked with a couple of prospects that said, if you get to be county mayor, we want to talk to you. To me, that means they want to do business in this county. Now, we didn't get the shape we're in 2 years. In fact, we can't get out of it in 2 years. But all I'm asking you is to elect me to a 2-year term. And if you don't see some growth for the better, if you don't see some movement and some progress, hey, don't re-elect me in 2014. Anyway, I would appreciate your confidence, your consideration, and your vote. Tomorrow, early voting begins. I want to encourage each of you to get out and vote. You know, we have approximately 14,000 registered voters in this county. Less than half of them voted in the 2010 election. As a matter of fact, 6,022 people. It's a shame that some people are not interested in what happens in their county, in their country, and what happens in their nation. And all this starts, to make a better county, it all starts with exercising your right to vote. I want to thank again the Independent Appeal for hosting this, and Jed for moderating this debate tonight. I want to thank the McNairy Regional Alliance, the Chamber, of course, for letting us use this beautiful facility. And I want to thank all of you, concerned citizens of McNairy County. Thank you very much.
And as I said earlier, as being a lifelong resident of McNairy County, I chose to be here. I love where I live. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I love the people and the opportunities that McNairy County has given me. My decision in running for this office unfortunately came in the midst of a term. I've been thinking about this for approximately 5 years. And unfortunately, the way it fell, it was fell in the middle of an election and term. But I felt like it was so important that I act on what I felt strongly about, that I said, this is the time. And after a lot of prayer and consideration, that answer came to me. And as in a life of service, and that's what I've done as a school teacher, it's the same thing. I've watched my parents build a business based on a good product for your money, and the customer always comes first. Well, that's the way I feel about the people of McNairy County. You know, you're going to hire who you want to be in this position, and we work for you. I will work for you. I will give you all my efforts will be to do whatever I can to recruit industry into McNairy County and do anything that I can to better the lives of the people that live here. And I would appreciate that opportunity and your consideration in the election in August the 2nd. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the Independent Appeal, I'd like to thank the McNairy Regional Alliance. I'd like to thank our candidates and our publisher, Janet Rail, our managing editor, Christian Coulon, and most of all of you. So go out and vote. Thank you. Good night.
If you want to say something, want me to shut up and let you talk? So, this is a snowball effect with a lot of hidden benefits is what I'm going into. And both of you, whichever one of you wins the election, need to be putting your best foot forward to get that into our possession because of the big pool of grant money that's available once we do own it.
I agree, Jim. And, you know, I don't think anybody here disagrees that it's a wonderful facility, that it was saying that the price was good. But again, let me iterate again that this past budget year, we just barely squeaked by. You know, and there were some other issues that there would have been a lot of public outcry, I think, if we were to go ahead and, at that point in time, and done that. Ron, what do you think?
I think, I agree, Tom, we do, and Jim, we do need to make every effort we can, you know, and it would employ several people, because when you talk about ground maintenance people, all the entities that would be involved to keep that up and going, I understand exactly what you mean. And that is something we will have to consider, and it will come up again, but I think every effort needs to be made to what we can do to make that work.
Good, thank you.
Just hang on. Well, you was talking about all the tourist stuff we told about here County. People sits here, outside here. What about Ray Blanton Day? Would y'all promise one of y'all will try to see it too? You remember Ray Blanton, don't you? Yeah. McNairy County's got every other kind, but Ray Blanton. Thank you.
Okay, Bobby, do you wanna answer? I didn't quite understand the question.
That we need somebody.
Yeah, I need an answer.
Now, let's try that again.
I hadn't got the time.
We can hear you. Yes.
Excuse me, I'm James Richard. I've recently moved here to McNairy County from Texas in 2007. I've been outside the circle, so I got a lot of family folks up here and things on that order. What I'm hearing about this county, and I come from a county that got into economic trouble, you say that, Tom, and the way I understand it, you kind of control it right now, what's going on with the county mayor job, is that correct? And let me go on. I'm hearing that this county's in trouble, that you barely made the budget this year. Do you see, and is it, that we probably are going to see a tax increase in this county in the near future?
I can't say that. It depends on a lot of factors. You know, part of our responsibility, every citizen in here, including the county mayor, has got the responsibility to be a great steward for the taxpayers' money. So I plan to be as conservative as I can possibly be. That doesn't mean I won't spend some money if I get the best return on investment for the county, for the taxpayers. But let me back up here a minute. You know, I told you earlier in my initial address that I did economic development in Northern County. There were 4 incorporated areas in Wayne County, Tennessee, 2 counties east of here. The largest rural county in Tennessee, only second in size to Shelby County, but Shelby County is the metro, so it's the largest rural county in Tennessee. There were 4 towns. The smallest town was bordered on Lawrence, the next county east, and Wayne County, but the city officers were in Wayne County. They gave up their charter 2 years ago because they could no longer provide services. We have 10 incorporated areas here in McNairy County, all with mayors, aldermen, or commissioners. You know, I can see, I won't go there, but I can see maybe a probability if things don't change that some of those smaller incorporated areas might have to go the same way. But, and I don't like to say that, but the truth is the truth. And yeah, we're not the only. Hey, listen, we're not the only county in America that's having real budget problems. We're having budget problems all over this United States. You know, we just learned about a get the city in California in the news yesterday, that they can't pay their city employees. They don't have the money. So you've got to find ways to create a tax base. And let me tell you, I went to Wayne County, July 1st, 2007. I haven't been over there very long, and I watched 1,000 jobs leave this county. 1,000 jobs. And I can tell you who they were. Summer Apparel lost 400. Reiner Schiffnacher lost 400. When I retired at GE, Summer, there were 440. They were down to 85 recently. They're just barely over 100. Aquaglass in Adamsville had 1,100 people. I was there today is Thursday? 3 weeks ago today with Workforce Investment because I was still employed by Wayne County. The jail code process from Aquaglass went either to Praxis in Savannah or American Whirlpool in Clifton, and of course I was in Clifton. So I watched 109 people walk out of that building that day. It broke my heart. They have 85 employees left at Aquaglass right now in Evansville. 5 years ago, there were 1,100. I think I'm right, coming out, Mike? Something like that, 1,100. A little over 1,000. So, you know, you've got to, if you don't find ways to create a tax base, we're all going to be suffering. We're all in this thing together. We got to think about regionalism. I think this McNairy Regional Alliance is the right answer. You know, you've got to collaborate with other counties around you, other elected officials around you. The day is over when you can operate just by yourself. Because if you don't think about a regional collaboration, we're all going to starve to death. Okay? I don't know if that answers your question.
You come close.
Come pretty close. Thank you.
Obviously, no one wants tax increase. You know, it's the last thing, especially anybody that's the chairman of the chief of a county. I don't want that to happen. But as Tom just said, there are things in the future that we may not foresee, and it may require it. But every effort will be made to keep our budget balanced and not be a burden on the taxpayers. So I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question?
Hey, I tell you what, you got two guys this good in McNairy County wanting to help us. Nothing can be impossible. These are great guys. Give them another hand. These guys. I've got hope with these two guys on our side. It can't be bad. Me and Pat on Pat's Cafe over here, we have people come in this town from everywhere in the world. I'm telling you, around the world, literally, we do. They get here some way. We had some folks from Amsterdam. They flew into Washington, D.C., went to South Florida. They wanted to see South Florida. Back to Nashville, wanted to see the Country Music Hall of Fame. Then down to Jackson to the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. On down to Elvis Presley Mansion, Memphis. Come back through I think maybe the Ames Plantation, and wound up in Selma to see the Muriels and eat Pat's Cafe from Amsterdam. Sure did. So we get them everywhere. All we need to do, listen, we need to treat these people like they're family when they come into town. We need to make it the best place they've ever visited. When they leave Selma, they need to think it's the greatest place they've ever seen, because it is. I'm telling you, I'm right across from courthouse, flag flying high in the sky, flags all over the place. Old lady still crossing the street. Rexall drugstore still down on the corner where I seen my first Playboy magazine. It was a great day, I'm telling you. Hope you know. Hey, let's just treat them real good. You know, everybody has to work together, and if they come into town, let's give them a good time. Treat them like folks, they are, you know, they like it.
So let me respond to this for a second. That's why community development is so important in this county. Because if you don't have community development, you cannot have economic development. And if you don't understand customer service, you know, when a person comes into this county, who's the first person they talk to? The clerk at McDonald's or the proprietor down the street. What is there to do here? Man, nothing to do here. Well, you know what the answer is? We've traveled all over this country, and I'll tell you, I've gone to places and asked hotels, what is there to do? We're gonna be here 3 days. Oh, they ain't here, Dad. So you've got to be able, you know, you gotta communicate to the citizens that customer service is probably the most important thing that we can do to keep people coming into this county. A good example, and I'll try to, I never been brief, but I'll try to be a little short. A good example is that about 7 or 8 years ago, I guess, an industry flew in, they called and said, look, this is proprietary to us, this is confidential, I don't want anybody to know who we are, but we're coming in to look at one of your buildings, okay? Picked them up out here at Robert Sibley Airport. The first thing I saw was a logo on the airplane. The next thing I saw was a logo on their jackets. And the next thing I heard was, what is so-and-so doing here anyway? What do they want? So, you know, proprietary information goes both ways. It's hard to practice confidentiality if your prospect doesn't follow through. That didn't have anything to do with anything, did it?
I got
Yes,
one
sir.
question. Of course, being from Texas and the Gulf Coast, we know a hurricane's coming, we got 3 days. I was so astonished when the tornadoes come through this area a couple years ago, and what destruction they had. I live on Moore Schoolhouse Road. The only thing that I knew that it was coming is my aunt called me and said, get in the bathtub. Is there any thoughts, if y'all have, whoever gets this job, in getting more safety a factor out there for the county, sirens, the cell phone system? They say, don't use AT&T because AT&T don't work. It don't work out there.
Can I start? Homeland Security gave us a good $750,000 grant. That money's gonna go for sirens at the 11 fire stations in this county. There's another $1 million grant, and that's gonna be used for some 911 equipment, a couple of fire trucks, and we're hoping that part of that can be dedicated to places like Purdy, that was devastated a year ago, a tornado. They don't have a fire station, so they're not in the loop to get a siren. We're hoping that second round of grants will allow us to at least put one out there at their community center. You know, we've already got power. You've got some that a tornado spotter has to activate, and you've got some that the 911 center has to activate. So yes, they're in the middle, because we understand that, you know, this tornado alley has moved over the years. And we get our share here. We've had a lot of devastating weather here.
I agree with Mr. Colley, because we do, I did know that we will have some aid to your area at some point.
One more question, and I'll shut up. Being from Texas, got big mouth. But on these places where you're going to put the sirens, wherever you might, is it a geographical look into this thing? Let's don't put it at a fire station that's in a hole. Let's put it up in a high place that it'll make some noise. You know, I understand that, you know, you say at the fire stations, but there are some fire stations that set real low, and, just 64, the water tower, if you had one near that water tower, you'd like horns to be up. They would hear.
Yes, to answer your question, I'm sure when these are available, you know, proper mapping, that's what the emergency management office does, and with proper management, I'm sure that they'll place them where they need to be placed.
I've got the microphone, so I'll ask my question now. This is a bridge between education and arts in the county. My name is Logan Brasher. I've lived here my whole life. I'm heavily involved with Arts in McNairy in the theater program. I was in band in high school. Well, my question for both of you, Mr. Brooks, this might be a whole lot easier for you, is will you as mayor support arts education in our school system? Arts education is dying across the country. McNairy County is on the verge of it. Will you as mayor support it, and if so, how would you do it?
Excellent question. Of course, my obvious answer is going to be yes. Being a music educator and involved in the arts. There will always be, unfortunately, you know, you hear this across the country, and I think everybody in this room has heard this at one time or another. Well, we're going to have to cut this, we're going to have to cut, even down to where they cut athletic programs. But the first one on the block normally is an arts program or a music program. And if I'm elected mayor, we will make sure that whatever efforts that we need to take through the school board, we will make sure that will not happen. Because that is an important asset for many students in school. Some of them are not athletic, that's not their direction. This is the direction that their interest lies, and this will give them their outlet, and we don't need to take that away from them. I will always be an advocate for arts and music.
You know, we should have traded times. There's something wrong. I guess we're more on the same page than I thought we were. Arts at McNairy. I was in, Dr. Sean Pitts and I think when this was a dream of his, I was the chamber director in this county, and we worked very closely together to create AIM. He spent numerous hours in his own money to get this thing off the ground. And I want to commend him for that. I don't know if Dr. Sean Pitts in here. He is. You know, and I'll say this, when I went to another county from here, the first thing I did was find out we didn't have any artists. So my wife and I set about cataloging all the available artists, all the performing artists, and all the still artists, and we put them all together. We came up, and people would recommend somebody else. All of a sudden, we had just a huge group, and we called that artisans in Wayne County. And we were able, and Dr. Pitts came over on his own time and helped us put that thing together. So I'm gonna tell you that Dr. Sean Pitts has done more to promote arts in this county than any one person that I know. Thank you.
I have a question for you guys. I'm Janet Rell from the Independent Appeal, but many of you know one of my passions is adult literacy. And you know, I think it was Tom Colley saying earlier that industries wanted a drug-free workforce. I think they also want an educated workforce. And one of our concerns, we're trying to raise a lot of money for adult education, working with Patsy Pearson and her group. But I had no idea that 31.5% of our adults, and they're aged 25 to 64, do not have a high school education. So any industry or business that looks at McNairy County is certainly going to look at our vital statistics. That's a challenge for all of us and a concern for me as well as you. But if you were elected mayor, my question is, do you have any idea of how we could tackle this and what we could do to develop an educated workforce, because any business is gonna want that, and that really assures vitality for this community.
I'll start again. We have a wonderful resource called UT Martin McNairy. We have a great school system. But we have a problem, like you said, it's adult literacy, or the lack of. Back, I don't know, a few years ago, we kicked off in this county, Books from Birth. And hey, it was a great project. Now it's really taken off good. But in the beginning, we did pretty well with it. But we found out something. These kids from birth to 6 years old were getting these books and taking them home. Mom and Dad couldn't read to them. A lot of them couldn't read to them. I've been out on the campaign trail just like Ronnie has. I'm sunburned just like he is. But I'll tell you this, I've been to a great number of houses in this county, and as late as yesterday, and they were absolutely poor, pitiful. We've got some poverty, we've got diabetes problems, we've got health issues, we've got a number of issues that need to be addressed. But you can't talk about economic development and workforce development unless you talk about education. And I said that earlier, and you're exactly right. We've got to, there's a lost generation out there that they're never gonna, if these people who just graduated from high school make about 3 times less than a college graduate. So, but here's what's happened in the past, guys. Every one of us grew up just about in industry. Brown Shoe, Martin Manufacturing, Levi, Aqua Glass, GE. And that generation, we were able to operate then without a formal education. Hey, it built a lot of houses, it fed a lot of people, it sent a lot of kids to school. But we're in a different age now. And now we're in that innovative digital information age that I talked about. And the workforce of tomorrow, we don't even know what the workforce of tomorrow is going to be. These kids that are in high school right today or freshmen in college, we don't even know what the skill sets are going to be when they get in the job market, what they're going to have to know about. We know it's going to have to be math and science. We know that's the big thrust. I don't know if I answered it, but my answer is yes. Adult literacy, I want to be part of the process.
Janice, that is the GED program is my biggest concern at this point, because it's to a point where it's going to be almost impossible for someone who wants to get a GED. That we've got our selfish government that is pushing that out of the way. It's where now if they can barely afford it. What I'm meaning is those of you that may not understand, because it costs money for someone to acquire their GED. Right now it's $55. It's fixing to jump to almost $210. Now how many people do you know that do not have a high school education, probably do not have the funds to do that, and here we are again. So you're pushing these people, you're penalizing those people. We do know that they're working very diligently with the state legislature to try to come up with an alternative program where this testing can be administered, an approved test that can be administered through our local agencies that will be equivalent to the GED test. It's privatized, basically what's happening. The GED program is fixing to be privatized, which is a tragedy, you know. And I'm in full support of whatever we need to do to secure our GED program, give them the support that they need. Patsy Pearson does a tremendous job. She had 58 graduates at the GED graduation. 2 of them, they gave their address, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. what they came from, where they came from, what they had to go through to get to that point. It was just absolutely amazing. College bound, one of them was already headed to UT Martin, and that, again, is where part of our asset, because a lot of those graduates are gonna go from the GED program right to UT Martin here in town. So we really need to, everybody get on board with trying to encourage them. I'm saying they go into the schools. We're trying, I know through the jails, I know this sounds awful, but this is through our jail system. You know why they're there. They don't have a proper education, so where do they go? To crime. So part of their judgment when they go to court can be, you must acquire your GED with a certain amount of time. So these programs, and we can thank our judicial system for that, and our sheriff's department. But we need more of those things to encourage kids to get out, and it's a tragedy. As Tom said, I've gone to many homes that they'll just, well, I appreciate you coming by, but I can't read, I can't write. And it is shocking. You don't think about that in this day and time, that there's actually people who cannot read or write. So I hope that answers your question, Janet.
Let me add something to that real briefly. I've been running adult leadership classes now for, I don't know, 9 years, something like that. The class before last in Wayne County, their project was, they got out and they collected money, and they raised money, they went to the banks, they got out, they actually did roadblocks, and they raised enough money to pay the GED testing fee for 36 individuals in that county. And they took them on an as-need basis. Some of them that could afford it, they didn't give it to them. So they impacted quite a few lives in that county just by the sake of that. Community got involved, the adult leadership class got involved as a project. It's probably one of the finest projects that I saw over there.
We've talked about education and taxes and a little bit of everything else, arts and so forth. The one thing that's really hindering our county and our job creation is a drug-free workforce. You touched on that. Will you see whichever one gets elected, and I admire both of you for running. I've been there, done that. And it's a lot of fun. Heartbreaking also. But admire you for running, and I think the county is in good shape with what. But would you talk about what we can do to help the sheriff, help the law enforcement in the county get rid of the drugs?
Well, part of my plan of action was to work really closely with the sheriff, to work with the local law enforcement people, and try to address some of these problems, address that problem.